see, this the same thing happened back then, and is being practiced today. You want to speak up, you know what's right. You say, I want to get with this word. I want to get with Christ and what he said. And then he chastised you for it. That's interesting, right? Let's look at another example. Turn back a couple chapters and go to chapter 7. John chapter 7. John chapter 7, verse 11 through 13. Then the Jews sought him at the feast and said, "Where is he?" Talking about Jesus. And there was much murmuring about the people concerning him. For some said, "He is a good man." Others said, "Nay, but he deceiveth other people." He deceiveth the people. See, they were murmuring about Jesus, under their breath. They were, well, some say he's a good man. Some say, others saying, no, I think he's a deceiver. You see, people do that today. When you bring this message in this word, there's going to be people who say you're doing a good thing. You're a good person. And then there's going to be some that are going to be against and be like, nah, man, he's deceiving people, We see that all the time. So basically, that's all I'm saying. There's some people going to agree with you, and there's people that's going to not agree with you and speak against you. And so you just got to understand that that's going to happen. Not everybody is going to agree with what you are bringing them, and that's just life. You know what I'm saying? They did it to Jesus. They did it to the apostles. They do it to people today. That's just what it is. But should you threaten to put them out of the synagogue, out of the congregation for preaching Christ? No. But that's what's going on here. So we continue. Verse 13. Howbeit no man spake openly of him for fear of the Jews. That's interesting. It says no man spoke openly about Jesus. So they were murmuring under their breath. They would, but nobody would speak openly about him. They wouldn't even say bad things about Jesus openly. Why? They were afraid of the Jews, specifically the Pharisees. What were they afraid of? They thought the Pharisees were going to kill him? No. Were they afraid that they were going to get beat? No. I mean, that's something to be afraid of. You know what I'm saying? That's something to be afraid of. But that's not the context here. The context is they were afraid of being put out of the synagogue. Once again, they were afraid. They associated the synagogue, that building, with their salvation. They associated all of that together, not realizing. What did Jesus say? It's not a building. It's not one organization. It's you. You are the church. He didn't say that building is. He didn't say this organization. It's belief in him, following his laws and commandments. That's what leads to salvation, not the kingdom hall. You read it. You see it. You see what they did 2,000 years ago and what they're doing today. It matches up perfectly, doesn't it? There's a lot more examples of this. We'll look at one more. Go to John chapter 12, verse 37 through 43. It's John chapter 12, verse 37 through 43. Now this is an interesting one here. But though he had done so many miracles before them, yet they believed not on him, that the saying of Isaiah the prophet might be fulfilled, which he spake, Lord, who hath believed our report, and to whom had the arm of the Lord been revealed? Therefore they could not believe, because that Isaiah said again, he hath blinded their eyes and hardened their heart. Now this is talking about God right here. That they should not see with their eyes. See, what this is talking about the prophet Isaiah, how God has blinded these people's minds and hardened their hearts. God can do that, and he does that today. He can harden your heart, and he's done it. If you are allowing yourself to become wicked, God can frustrate you. He can harden your heart. And we're going to talk about that in another class, but Those who want to know about God, of course, he's not going to do that. You know what I'm saying? But in any case, end of verse 40, and be converted, and I shall heal them. Now, 41, these things said Isaiah when he saw his glory and spake him. 42, nevertheless, among the chief rulers, also many believed on him. Notice what it said. It said, among the chief rulers. That's the leaders, the elders, the priests, the pastors. That's what it's talking about, the chief rulers. Many of them believed on Jesus. They knew about Christ and what he brought. They knew, they believed. It says they believed on him, but because of the Pharisees, they did not confess him, lest they should be put out of the synagogue. Wow. Again, you have these elders, these chief rulers. They had high positions. They were of, but they believed Jesus. They believed who he was, but they were afraid to confess and openly that he was Lord, that he was who he said he was. They were afraid. Why? Because they were afraid of being put out of the synagogue by the Pharisees. We see that today. There are elders who've been in this thing for years. They know a whole lot more. They've seen a lot. They've seen all the doctrinal changes, but they're not going to budge. We hope they do. They might, but a lot of them, they're cowards. They're not gonna give up their friends and their family, get put out of the congregation, even though they know that Jesus clearly said there's not one true organization. The Jehovah's Witnesses, they know that. But yet, they're not going to speak because they don't want to lose their position. Think about that. They don't want to lose that high, they don't want to get off that high horse. You know? That's wicked. It really is. It's wicked. It's wickedness, because then you're going to continue in this falsehood, and you're going to continue to teach this falsehood and rep JW.org. Rep this falsehood. That's wickedness. No matter what way you look at it, it is what it is. But you can clearly see even these chief rulers believed the truth. They knew who Jesus was, just like the parents. They knew who did it, who healed that blind man. They knew. But they didn't want to openly confess. They were afraid of getting kicked out. They were afraid. The young man wasn't. The man who was blind, he wasn't. He wasn't afraid. He said, hey, that man right there, he did it. They said, well, that man right there, that man's a sinner. But I don't know, sinner or not, he did it. He's the one that healed me, you know. He told the truth about it. Yeah, they got put out, and they ended up getting kicked out of the synagogue, but guess what? I mean, it worked out for them later. They ended up meeting up with Jesus later anyways, but we have to be that way. You see, we have to, as the scriptures say, carry our own cross or torture stake. We have to bear that. We pick it up and follow continually after Christ. We don't care about the lies and about being afraid of being put out of the congregation because we won't support the lies. Period. That's just what it is. But as you can see, even these chief rulers was afraid. Bamboozled by a building. Making the building, the church, making that out to be what we consider the key, the way to salvation. We see that watchtower sign, we see the JW.org, and we associate that with salvation. You know, it's a shame. I know a brother right now, and I love him to death. He's older, he's probably about 50, close to 60, he might be 60 years old. And he knows all the problems. He knows more problems with the organization than I do. Right? He knows. But yet, he chooses to remain with the congregation. Why? First off, although he admits and he says, man, they are so wrong. They've done so many bad things. Even though he will admit it, he says that they'll kill him. I don't know if that means, I don't think he means literally. I don't think he means literally. I believe he means spiritually. I never really asked him, but I believe he means spiritually. Like, defame his name, call an apostate, disfellowship him. I think that's what he's talking about. He said it like 6, 7 times. They'll kill me. They'll kill me. So he chooses to remain quiet and just stay with it.